everyone, my name is REDRUP. You're listening to the It's Not a Phase podcast, and on this episode I'm joined by Heather Richardson, who is a touring merch manager and a VIP manager. We talk about what a merch manager is and does, how she got into the music industry almost by accident, the importance of networking, helping to make special VIP memories for fans, merch presentation, what not to do when you get to the merch desk, and loads more. Now, if you enjoyed this or any other episode of the podcast and you want to show your support, there's a few ways that you can do that. Number one, leave a rating and review wherever you're listening to this. It takes just a few seconds and it really does help. Number two, share this on your social media, whether that be Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, wherever. Or number three, if you want to go the extra mile, you can pay a little bit each month to join the Patreon, and in return you'll get access to episodes early along with some other perks, or you can pick up some merch from the store. All the links to that and the podcast socials where you can follow us can be found at itsnotaphase.co.uk. That's itsnotaphase.co.uk. And now with all that out of the way, let's jump right into this week's episode of It's Not a Phase. What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me on this episode of It's Not a Phase, where I'm joined by Heather Richardson, who is a touring merch manager. How are you doing?
I am lovely. How are you today?
All good. Like I said, I'm just kind of still recovering a bit from a cold I've picked up from Download Festival, I think. But
you were there.
I was there, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I saw so many TikToks about that, and I was just like having such FOMO from being just in my bed. But that looked like a hell of a good time.
It was great, apart from, I mean, I've got red hair, so I don't do well in the sun, and it was just so hot the whole time. But the bands were great. I can't complain about the bands.
Yeah, mad jealous. I imagine like the only thing, well, we have a bunch of those over here, but I think Blue Ridge is the one that competes the best with that. And Blue Ridge for us is coming up in a couple months in September, and it's like right down the street from me. So you get to have FOMO now.
Yeah, I've seen the lineup. Like, I kind of wish I was over there. So.
I don't even know if I'm going yet, but if I am going for a day or for the whole thing, or regardless, I went the past 2 years in a row, and that festival fucks. Like that festival goes so hard, and it is just such an experience that just stays with you forever. So I imagine you being in Download and coming back from a cold, like I get it, and I'm sorry, but I imagine it was worth it.
Yeah, definitely. So you're saying when it's just down the road in the UK, it's like down the road, it's like a 20-minute drive, but in America, it's like a 3-4 hour drive. So
I live in Virginia Beach. The Blue Ridge is on the other side of the state, closer to like West Virginia. So that it's like a 3 to 4 hour drive for me.
That's basically me driving halfway up the country here. So.
Well, compared to like all the other festivals that the United States has that are in like Ohio and Kentucky and California and Florida, this is the only one that comes around that is drivable for me. So like there's Incarceration coming up in a couple of weeks. That's in Ohio. And if I pull the trigger on that one, it's either a flight or an 11-hour drive. Same with like all the ones in Florida. It's a flight. California, a flight. So Blue Ridge I call it like my hometown festival because that's the only one I can realistically make it to. Yeah. So yeah, we'll be planning for that one coming up. But
nice.
Like you're not feeling well.
I'll get there. So in your own words, what is a merch manager? What do they do? And what kind of benefit do they bring to a touring band lineup?
Okay, so I do merch and VIP for most of the time. When you are a merch manager and the band that you work for has a VIP experience, if the VIP experience isn't too in-depth, too much of a whole thing, then that gets tacked on to the merch manager.
Okay.
So as a merch manager, I am responsible not for designing the shirts and the merch and the hats and whatever, but I am just the on-tour seller of the merch. So like a day in my life on tour usually starts with, I'm a part of the crew. So the crew wakes up all together and unloads the trailer, no matter who you are, whether it's you're the merch person, the lighting guy, the sound guy, everybody works as a team to unload the trailer, unload all of the gear, all of the band stuff, whatever, get it in the venue. I set up my little display wherever the venue tells me to. So I set up my own little corner, my own little wall, whatever it is, hang up my stuff. I always have to count in my merch. So just numbers. You're counting in everything every single day. And then usually I have a couple hours to dick around before the doors actually open. And then from doors opening to the end of the show, I am standing behind the table talking to people selling merch. And then you pack it up, you count it out, you deal with the venue and all the cash and the money, and then you get out of there. But the way I like to describe it is I am the connection between the band and the fans. So the band, like if you are doing the VIP experience, yes, you do get to meet the band, you get to take your pictures, whatever. But other than that, like I am kind of the face of the band during the show. So people come to me, like, yes, they're buying a shirt that has the dates on it, the show that they went to, memorabilia, souvenir, whatever. But I have to kind of, it's a sales position. It's a sales position. It's similar to like bartending, where even if you're having a shit day, you got to put on a face and you have to be there for the fans. You have to make sure that they're still having a positive experience. They're having fun. They're talking to somebody who is excited to be there. So as much as it is just selling merch, it's also interacting with the people that are probably like seeing their favorite band and like shitting their pants. So it's very much a person on person job. So I enjoyed it a lot. And I describe myself as an introverted person. I hate dealing with people. However, when I'm on tour and I'm selling this merch and I'm like in a different venue every day, I feel myself like excited to talk to people because it's like similar people to me. Like I was like literally 5 years ago, before I found this career, I was the fan that was buying the VIP and like waiting outside in line for a couple of hours to meet my favorite band, flying across the country to see my favorite band. I was that person, and now I get to talk to those people. So it's kind of like a little cute little full circle moment for me, but that's what I do. The VIP stuff tacked onto that is just, some bands will have like a banner for me to set up. Some bands, you just do like a little meet and greet, you take a picture and then you go on your way. But that's also my responsibility. It's so much fun to see, like, especially when it's like a small group of VIPs. Like we'll get some days where we have 40 to 50 VIPs, and we'll get other days where we have like 5 or 8. Those smaller groups of people, you get to like see them interact with the boys and get all giddy about seeing them. And those are the moments where it's like, oh, this is really cool. This is a really like nice moment to see these people just meeting their favorite band they've been listening to for 20 years or whatever the story is. But it's very heartwarming of a job. So I enjoy it. The back end of the job involves, like I said, I have designed one shirt. That was a cool moment. Management reached out to me one day. This is a tour I did a year ago for All That Remains. Management did reach out and ask like my initial opinion on designing a new shirt. Like, oh, like what are you seeing is selling? What are the markets that are coming up? Like what weathers are you about to experience? Like what type of shirt do you think your audience would want? So that was pretty cool. But other than that, I have no influence on the initial designing of the merch. Usually that's done before, like weeks before the tour starts. They already have the theme of what they want the merch to look like based off like the new album that just came out or whatever it is. But yeah, I'm just responsible for making sure I have enough stuff, talking to management and the merch company, and emails, which I'm horrible at. But it's just emails of, hey, I need 48 more of this sent in 2 days and 96 more of this one sent in 4 days. And then it never works out that way. But that's the basis of my job.
I guess that not only lots of emails, but lots of spreadsheets as well, kind of working out numbers.
Yeah. Lots of spreadsheets, lots of different apps. Like there's like a point of sale app. There's a report app. There's the email spreadsheets with management, the email spreadsheets with the merch company. And then you try to get everybody to coincide and be cohesive as a team together. But there's people in different time zones. And it's a lot of cooperation between groups of people that don't even know each other. And it's a lot of back end management. But once you get past that part, and because you only have to like get reorders once every like 2 weeks or something, whatever, depending on how much they started you out with. A lot of times they miscalculate. Like this last tour I just did with Atreyu, oh my goodness, they thought that we were only going to sell like a little bit per each show, and we get the first 2 shows done and I'm completely sold out already.
Oh, wow.
I'm sending emails like, hey guys,
I need more.
Yeah, I need like 2 trailers worth more of merch, please. We completely underestimated how well we're going to do. Can you give me more stuff immediately? So situations like that, they're inevitable, but that's just part of the job.
Yeah. I mean, there's some stuff you can't predict beforehand. You can't kind of prepare for beforehand.
Right. Like every tour is different. And like, yes, you can kind of look back on old tours and be like, okay, so on the last headliner, we sold this much. We can assume that we're going to sell a similar amount on the next headliner, but it's different markets that you're selling to. It's a bunch, like you don't know who you're competing with, like who's going to be in the same city the same day. Like you don't know what the crowd size is going to be. You can look at pre-sale tickets and be like, okay, tonight we're going to have 800 people. I can then kind of estimate how much stuff I'm going to bring in based on that. But then there's also at the door sales that you don't know what's going to. We had a show in, I think it was in Corpus Christi, where we knew what the pre-sale ticket amount was. And I usually ask my tour manager every morning, like, hey, how many tickets have we sold so far? And I'll take that number and kind of like, okay, I need to bring in X amount of whatever. The pre-sale ticket number and the at the door ticket sale number that day was a difference of 250. That's like unheard of. Like everyone was just blown away. Like whatever our pre-sale number was, I was like, okay, I'm going to bring in this much. And I sold out a lot quicker than I thought. And I kept having to go back to the trailer for restock. And I'm like, what the hell is going on today? And I had talked to my tour manager at the end of that show. And he's like, yeah, we had 250 at the door ticket sales today. What the fuck? So you never know what's going to happen. Every day is different. You're in a different city every day, different weather, different groups of people, like even different parts of the United States buy differently. Like I know every time I go to Albuquerque, New Mexico, I'm selling double what I'm used to selling. And I have no idea why. Albuquerque just buys so much merch. But then you go to like Dallas and they hate merch. So if Dallas is listening, that's incorrect, but just an example. Yeah, so every day is different. You never know what you're going to get into. You never know what type of people you're going to deal with, but the majority of the experience on tour is very positive. Bunch of big fans and a lot of stories. I've heard people like flying from Canada to Austin, Houston, Texas, whatever, to see a show. And it's like talking to those kinds of people makes my job that much better.
Well, you mentioned a few minutes ago, kind of at one point being on the kind of fan side of the VIP experience. So, I mean, before we talk a bit more about what you do, if we take like a few steps back in your story, when you were growing up, like what bands were you into? What kind of started getting you into the world of music?
I grew up with two very different parents, and I have an older sister as well. My dad is very traditional, very like, don't burp, don't put your elbows on the table at dinner. My mother was taking us to Nickelback concerts and like front row seats for Theory of a Dead Man. And I remember like there's a specific picture that exists at our amphitheater where we could pick ourselves out in the crowd that Nickelback took a picture from the stage. Like we were like right front and center. And we also have a venue right down the street called the Norva, which is voted like, I think a couple of years ago, it was voted #1 backstage venue in the United States by the Rolling Stones. I think that happened. Right. But we have a bunch of really cool venues around here that my mom was always just, like, let's go see Stained or AC/DC, Def Leppard, Theory of a Dead Man, Nickelback, all these like dad rock, Five Finger Death Punch, all these dad rock bands. And my sister and I, we always had the same hobbies. Like we played the same sports growing up. So when she started taking the Nickelback that mom gave us and turning it into Sleeping with Sirens, I followed along with her, and we would sit in her like high school boyfriend's car, just like blasting Sleeping with Sirens. And so I remember like starting to listen to that kind of stuff around like 9th grade, maybe. And I remember being, this is so weird. I remember being in my computer programming class in 9th grade. And instead of doing my computer assignments, I was watching We Came as Romans funny moments on YouTube. And that's so funny now because like I just spent New Year's with them like a year ago. So it's really cute how like I used to be a fan of these bands, and now that I have this career, they're like I get to call them my friends now. It's so like weird to think about, but also like I said, I was that fan that was flying across the country okay, I'll tell you a story. This story time. So my sophomore year of college, I went to a school called James Madison University, which is similar to like where Blue Ridge is, like the other side of Virginia. And I went to school not knowing what the hell I wanted to do with my life. I like grew up with no talent, no skills, no like passions really. Like every sport that I played, I quit. Every like hobby that I had, I didn't take it any further than that. And like my mom was in the law industry, my dad was in the architecture industry, so didn't want to do any of that. My sister also went to school and she's got a basic business degree. So I go to school and I'm like, all right, I'll study marketing, like whatever. We'll see what we can do with this. And then I found that my school offered a minor in music industry. So I'm like, all right, like maybe I do want to work in the music industry. Like I know that the one thing I really do enjoy is concerts. Like I love the Nickelback concerts that my mom took me to. I loved waiting in line outside the amphitheater in the Norva. So let's play along with this. Let's see what happens. So I studied marketing and music industry. I ended up doing an internship between my junior and senior year that involved me living in LA for a summer, and I worked for a company that does social media for bands and artists. So we were doing social media for like Taylor Swift and Backstreet Boys, and I was just a little intern, and they ended up hiring me as like an assistant, but I was actually really good at it. Like I was good at coming up with social media campaigns that would like lead up to an album release or a single release or a music video. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll stick along with this. Whatever, we'll see what happens. But the story I'm going to tell you is actually fucking hilarious because my sophomore year of college, right before that internship, I was the biggest fangirl of The Word Alive, to the point where like they knew who I was because I was going to so many shows. And like there was another girl who lives in New Jersey that we would go to shows together, and like we met only because we were always at the Word Alive shows together. So my sophomore year of college, finals week comes along, and they played in Richmond, which for me, from my school, is 2 hours, easy. But I had to miss that show. I think it was Valentine's Day or something. I had to miss that show because Valentine's Day, boyfriend comes first, I guess. And so I was like, all right, what other show on this tour can I go to? Like, I have to see The Word Alive. So I fly to Texas in the middle of finals week. I had talked to my professor and been like, hey, dude, something really important is coming up the day of my final. Can we please move my final? I'll come back and take it, but I have to be in Texas on this day.
It's really important for you to see The Word Alive.
It's so important. Like I have to be there. And he was cool enough to let me move my final. So I fly to Texas by myself on Spirit Airlines with my history textbook with me, trying to study. And I meet this girl from Jersey now this was the first time I met her, in this sketchy ass town in Houston. And it was the weirdest experience, but that's what I was doing as a teenager, however old you are, sophomore year of college. I was flying across the country, and it was awesome. That's going to be a core memory now, meeting this random chick that I found on the internet, and we got kicked out of the hotel at 11 a.m. So we're waiting outside the venue starting at 11 a.m. And it's ridiculous to talk about it now because I didn't tell my parents, but that's the type of fangirl I was. I was the crazy fan that was always buying VIP experiences. So I knew that I had to do something in my career based around that, because that was the only thing I really cared about, was the bands that I liked and this industry as a whole. So took that into my studies, graduated with a digital marketing music industry degree. And if you want, I can tell you the story of how I found this career.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So it involves college. So all 4 years of college, I had this friend named Troy, and he kept telling me how his older brother ran a music venue in Richmond. So for 4 years, I'm like, Troy, I need to meet your brother. Like, maybe he does what I want to do. Like, let me shadow him. Let me pick his brain. Let me talk with him. Please, 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 please. It wasn't until 2 weeks before graduation. So 4 years later, 2 weeks before college graduation, his brother is like, hey, you can come work this show. I'll show you what I do and, see if you want to work here maybe. So I'm like, okay, let me go explore the venue side of the industry and let's see what happens. It was a Ice Nine Kills and From Ashes to New show, a show I was going to go to anyways.
Yeah.
And I show up for work, and he's like, all right, you're going to be the runner today, which, if you know what a runner is, they're kind of like the bitch little girl that goes and gets the coffee. They're the intern. Yeah. And I was like, I'll do whatever you want. I'll mop your floors. I don't care. Like, I waited 4 years for this. And this was a venue that I love, the Canal Club. So I show up, and he's like, all right, you're the runner. So I go and get the coffee for everybody. And when I come back with the coffee, he comes up to me like kind of in like a panic. And he's like, hey, I need you to drive this guy to the hospital. And I'm like, oh shit. Okay. So I actually have to work. I have to do something important today. This is scary. And so I didn't recognize the guy, but I knew he was one of the guys in the bands. Like, I wasn't too familiar with Ice Nine Kills at this point yet. I was good friends with the From Ashes to New guys. So I was just hanging out. And then this guy that I had to drive to the hospital, didn't recognize him, but he hardcore looked like a band dude. So he's in my car and we're driving to urgent care. And I'm just like, so like, who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm Ricky. I play guitar in Ice Nine Kills. And I'm like, oh, sick. Like, nice to meet you. Whatever. Hope you're okay. So I drive into urgent care, driving back. And like just those 2 car rides, we ended up becoming best friends. Like, I don't know what it was. We just vibed really well with each other. He was like asking me like why I was there, what I was doing. And I was like, I don't really know. I'm just here.
Just winging it.
Yeah, I'm just winging it. Just kind of exploring, whatever. I'm here for whatever you guys need. And we swapped contact information and kept in contact after that show. I didn't have anything else to do the rest of the day. I got to stand there and enjoy the show. And me and him like talked a little bit after whatever. But 2 months after that, he reached out to me, and he has a smaller band called Hawk.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, Hawk is going on tour with Ice Nine Kills and Tooth Grinder. And then again, directly after with Attila and Con the Empire. Do you want to come live in a van with 5 dudes you've never met for no pay and do merch? And I said, absolutely. So that's how that started. I went on my first 2 tours were back to back with Hawk in a van. I had no idea what I was doing. They were the opener, so not much merch to be sold, but it was a good like kind of leeway into the industry and like into this career to see if it's something I wanted to continue with. Yeah,
just dipping your toes into it, just kind of seeing what it is.
And I'm glad I got to live the van life for a little bit. So it was completely, I like to say it was accidentally on purpose. Like I purposefully for 4 years begged this guy to let me work for him, but I accidentally ended up getting a career out of it and something not venue related, but I lived in a van for a couple months with a bunch of really awesome dudes and got to learn how the industry works. And from there, he kind of let me work alongside Ice Nine Kills for a little bit. So I was kind of like their assistant merch for a couple tours. And then COVID hit. So MIA for a year. And then because of the connections I had built working with Ice Nine and Ricky and Hawk, I then got to do all these tours with All That Remains and Atreyu. Like, it's so crazy how this industry works, because I literally worked with Ice Nine for a couple months maybe, and their guitar tech at the time is the reason why I got connected with All That Remains. It's ridiculous. It is so, I don't know how I got so lucky to meet these people, but most of my career happened because of my connections with other people. And it's so nice. Like, it's so nice to think about these people. Like, they are running into people saying like, hey, do you know anyone who can do merch? And they're throwing my name out there. Like, that's so nice. So yeah, that's how everything got started for me. Very grateful for how it started, the weird way that it did. But we're here now working with Atreyu and like doing nationwide Canada tours, whatever. And it's weird to like look back and think of how this happened, because it's so like, I did not plan for this shit. I did not mean to be here, but we got here, and there's so many people to thank for it.
Well, I think it kind of shows, and I think it's important in all different parts of the industry, just like how important and beneficial networking is. Like, if you didn't have that car ride with Ricky, who knows what would have happened?
Exactly. And like, I like to say that anybody can sell merch. Like, yeah, you kind of have to be like a little bit, you have to put on the extrovert personality when you're doing it. But when it comes down to the jobs that exist in a crew, like lighting guy, sound guy, tour manager, photographer, like most of the jobs within a crew require a special amount of skill. To me, merch doesn't. Like, it's easy to deal with money, it's easy to deal with people, and it's easy to set up a display. I didn't need to go to school for this. I don't have a special skill set for this. However, what I think it takes to kind of keep getting hired, it's your personality and it's the way you network. And like I said, I'm an introvert, like by nature, but the way that like I know I have to maneuver myself in this industry is by my interactions with these people. Like, I get hired based on pretty much like your vibe, pretty much. Like, it's how well can you mesh with these crews and these bands, not how well can you sell merch. Like, yeah, that's important too. But with this position within a crew, it's very much like, can we stand to be around this person?
Are you a good person? Are you a nice person to be around?
Right. So most of my career, I'm maneuvering throughout my day, like making sure I don't give anybody a reason to not hire me. Yeah, like with lighting guys, like, oh, how well can you program lights? It's always going to be how well can you mesh within a crew. But with lighting guys, how well can you program lights? With sound guys, how well can you, I don't know the words, bass, treble, whatever. But with photography, like, how well do your pictures come out? With merch, there's no like final product that you can put on your resume. So it's simply about like what do people perceive you as? So yeah, the networking is so important within this career, and that's literally how I got here. I don't know how, because I feel like I'm such an awkward individual, but that's what I have to keep in mind every single day, is make sure nobody dislikes you.
Were there any other kind of roles in the industry that you were more interested in to begin with, or did you just kind of land in where you are?
No, I have done a tour where I was assistant tour manager. I did a drag queen tour with
Okay.
Bob Monet. And I got that tour because one of my best friends that lives around here, actually, she's their tour manager. She strictly tour manages drag queens. And back in the day, she tour managed like Escape the Fate. She's moved on to the drag queen world. So she brought me along as they already had a merch person. So she was like, hey, I want to tour with you. Would you be open to assistant tour manager? I was like, yeah, like sure, whatever. I hated it. I am not good at it because it's all about like you're calling hotels, you're calling the venues, figuring out parking, you're ordering hospitality, you're dealing with DoorDash and Instacart, and you're making sure that the talent is happy no matter what. And I've learned with just experiencing that 6-week long tour, I'm way better at managing my own product and talking to fans than I am at managing talent and making sure talent is happy. I'm not good at managing people. I'm good at managing things. So assistant tour managing, props to all of the tour managers out there because that is probably the hardest job. Like I see what my tour manager for Atreyu has to go through and just want to cry for him every day. He handles it so well. He's amazing at what he does. But the art of tour managing is almost impossible. But yeah, I've tried assistant tour managing, didn't like it. I couldn't do anything else. Like I never thought I would be a merch person. And it's weird because my older sister who I mentioned, she started doing merch before I did.
Right, okay.
She's also a touring merch girl. It's so weird how that worked out because she kind of she saw out this career. Like she kind of, I don't know how it happened for her, but her first tour was with No Resolve.
Okay. Yeah.
She went on to tour with Nonpoint for a while. And I forget what her start is, but she kind of sought it out. And then 3 years, 2 years, whatever later, I accidentally run into it. And it's like, what a small freaking world. But yeah, I can't, of all of the careers I've seen happen in this industry, I don't think I'd be good at any of them.
Well, when you mentioned, being a bit more of an introvert earlier, I guess that kind of ties in with the fact that you're not very good at kind of managing the same people day in, day out, where you're much better at managing things and stock. And when you interact with these people, of course, you've got to have like people skills, but you see those people like once during the night and then you're going to another city. So
yeah, because like going throughout school, the business degree that I went through, like we had to do sales classes and we had to do accounting classes. And going to sales class every day at freaking 8 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I hated it. I hated having to like pitch to people, and I hated just like putting on a face for people. And then I get to accounting class and I'm just like math all the way. Like I'm so good at just like numbers and solid things, but dealing with personal relationships, no, thank you. But it's cool that like I can literally feel the switch flip when doors open and fans start coming up to me, and it's like a natural flip. Like I am so introverted. I don't leave my house when I'm at home. My sister likes to go out all the time and she'll invite me and I'm like, no fucking thank you. Even bartending, I'm like faking it till I make it. But with being on tour and selling merch and dealing with fans who like, I still am a fan. Like there's very few bands that I can fangirl over. Now being a part of the industry is like unprofessional, but I'm still a fan at heart. And that's why I show up to every one of my tours just like, I've had like some of the band members that I work with, like just be like, why are you so happy all the time? Like just walking through the bus. And I'm like, cause I'm here. Like I'm doing something I love. And it's a natural like high almost that like every day I'm experiencing this life on the road that I never thought I would have. And it's a natural flip of the switch when I get to talk to these fans and just turn on the extrovert in me. And it's where I want to be. So yeah, these fans that I see once and then never again. But yeah, it's quite a unique lifestyle and it's quite a unique career that I'm very thankful to have found magically.
Yeah. Well, not magically, it's just you did the few right moves at the beginning. And
accidentally on purpose. Yeah.
It worked and here you are today.
Yeah, and who knows what's next.
You're doing this all then freelance, not like through an agency or anything like that?
Correct. Everything is freelance. So like I said, like that All That Remains tour that I got a little over a year ago, I literally like the guitar tech of Ice Nine a couple years ago ran into management of All That Remains and management had asked him, do you know anybody that would be good for this tour? He threw my name in the hat. So that's how I got to start working with All That Remains. And then a very similar thing happened with Atreyu, where the lighting guy he's the lighting guy of A Day to Remember, Emotionless in White, and he used to do lights for Ice Nine. That's how I met him. I had met him like twice. And I guess we just had we built a friendship off of those. And Atreyu, he heard that Atreyu was looking for a merch person and he threw my name in the hat. So it's all freelance networking. I'm not signed with anything except for the band that I work for at the time. And I just have to like All That Remains hasn't toured since that tour I did with them spring 2022. I know that when they do go back on tour, they're going to bring me back. And then same with Atreyu. Like I know that with every Atreyu tour, I'll be reached out to. So it's just a matter of like being in the right place at the right time, but also building these relationships with these people that have these connections elsewhere. And I didn't mean for that guitar tech or that lighting guy to like help me in my career. It happened. And it's just like the beauty of this industry. I didn't like become friends with these people because of their connections. It happened the reverse. Like their connections benefited me because of the friendships I built with them. And I hope one day I'm in a position to help them back because what they've done for my career is just insane. But yeah. And like, so if I'm like looking for other bands to work with, like I'm not going to put anything out into the world that isn't secure yet. But like, if I hear that a band is going out on tour and I'm not sure who their merch person is, I will reach out to that band, or like I will dig enough into social media to find out who their tour manager is, reach out to their tour manager and be like, hey, I saw you guys just announced this tour. Like if you need any merch help, like I'm free those dates. That's how it works.
Right. Okay.
It's annoying at times. Like for example, right now I'm in talks with another band, but they've told me that they have somebody else in mind, but they're not sure about that other person. So it's like, yeah, we'll reach out if we end up not hiring that first person. And it's like a leading game. So I'm glad I have All That Remains in Atreyu because I know my career's with them now, no matter what. But when it comes to like freelancing it with other bands, it's a game and it is hard. It is because everybody has their established crew, unless like something happens or someone gets fired or someone quits, whatever. Every band has their established photographer, their established tour manager. So it's hard to kind of like slide in there, but it's worth a shot. Like I'm sliding into so many people's DMs being like, hey, so I'm available.
I mean, you don't ask, you don't get.
Exactly. So I've learned to just say like, fuck it, shoot your shot. The worst they can say is no, but at least your name is out there now. And
you're just going to be in the same place you were if you didn't ask. So
exactly. So I'm doing my best, but I'm happy with my All That Remains crew, my Atreyu crew, whoever else wants me. Like if it works out, I'll say yes, no matter what. But as of now, I'm still so early. Like I've only done 7 tours. So I'm still very young and very new in this career that I have to say yes to everything. So even if like another like van tour were to come along and let's say like freaking Invent Animate, those boys, let's say they needed somebody for like a 3-week long van tour in a time that I am open, not doing anything with Atreyu or All That Means, I would have to say yes. Right. Just for more experience, just to learn more and to keep networking and just I still have so much more to learn. And I'm so thankful that I got my start with bands like Ice Nine Kills. And I got to like my first tour working with Hawk was opening for Attila and Crown the Empire. So I got to see how their merch guys manage their stuff. So I literally got my start watching the best of the best in the merch world, so to say. And I know I still have so much more to learn, but I'm so thankful that I got my start where I did because I got to observe and just like watch from an opener standpoint. And now here I am managing merch for headliners. And it's like, I think of Rob from Ice Nine and Thaddeus from Crown the Empire and John, who's now with Wage War, but he was with Attila. And I think about them all the time. And I'm like, what would John do? What would Thaddeus do? Like, it's quite an interesting industry to be in, but it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
And you get to travel a lot, so.
Oh yeah, I've gotten to go to Canada already. I think I've got 8 states left in the United States. The dream is a Europe tour. I'll come say hi.
Fingers crossed.
That's for sure. The merch world works differently in different countries. So not a lot of bands will take their US merch person because it's a lot cheaper and more beneficial to hire a Europe merch person. That's a whole other different world that I honestly don't know much about. But Atreyu just did a Europe tour this past winter, and they said that the merch guy that they got in Europe was like, they're so thankful that they got him instead of like flying me out, because he had so many connections with merch companies in Europe and all this stuff. Like, he knew the currencies, he knew this and that and this and that, and like could get stuff overnight. And like, there's just certain things that I wouldn't have been able to do over there, but it's still the dream. I still want to do it. I still want to learn it. I still want to experience it. So that's the bucket list right now.
Yeah. Even if like you go over and like shadow someone, I guess, like then you can kind of pick up some tips. Cause like you say, when you come over to Europe, if you come over to Europe, then you've got, like you said, different currencies, and then going through different countries, you've got like visas and everything else you've got to consider.
Yeah, I would do, like, I know it would be a loss financially to like just go over there and shadow somebody, but it would be so worth it. I would absolutely take the loss and just go over there just to learn it for a couple weeks, and then hopefully take that experience with me for like a paid position eventually. But I would absolutely love, because I've never even been to Europe. I've only been to Iceland, which isn't Europe, but is it?
It is. It's like the edge of Europe, yeah. Maybe work in geography if you do come over.
Yeah, I would absolutely, or in Australia too. I definitely want to see a kangaroo. But yeah, that's the bucket list, because I've done the US not plenty, but enough times now to I know which cities I want to stay away from. But yeah, definitely bucket list item is a Europe tour with whoever wants to take me.
Well, one day.
One day for sure. It'll happen. If you put it out in the world, it will happen.
So when you bring in you're working on a tour, when it comes to kind of deciding the price point for the merch, is that decided by you? Is that by the band? Is that via management or the venue? How does that kind of work?
It's usually a email with management. Right. Like the day before, I remember this last tour I just got off of, that email happened the day before the tour started. I showed up to the warehouse, saw all the stuff, counted it all in, and I shot an email over to management. I was like, hey, what are we thinking for prices? That's it. It's as simple as that. Or if you're the headliner, you get to pick. Well, like management, of course. It's not my sole decision. I do have input in that. Like I think halfway through this last tour, we introduced a new item. I forget what it was. Oh, I think we found like some old vinyls or something. And I had just had to reach out and be like, hey, what are we thinking for this vinyl? Like, it's simple as that. But if you're the opener, the headliner gets to choose if the openers have to price match or not. Right. So for me on this last tour, being the merch manager of the headliner band, I got to tell the other three bands if they had to price match me or not, which I personally don't care, but I understand the psychological logic behind it. Like, if all of the shirts are the same price, then fans don't really have to make a decision there. They just buy from their favorite band. But if you have like an opening band undercutting you severely and somebody's choosing between your shirt or their shirt, they're going to go to their shirt. So I understand the decision-making behind it. I personally think that a band should do what they want, but I follow whatever management wants. If you are the opening band, you have to just go along with whatever headliner wants for you. And then there are some, I haven't run into this, but I know, like, so as a merch person, there's two different types of days you can run into. You can run into an artist sale or a venue sale. So everything I've talked about so far has been an artist sale kind of day, where you show up, you're managing your own stock, you're selling your own stock, you pay the venue out at the end of the night. And venue sale day usually happens on bigger tours where you're working in bigger venues, or sometimes Live Nation will do this to you too. But for example, in Trinity of Terror last winter, 80% of the venues we did were like hockey arenas. So those types of venues, they have their own staff. So all that you're doing as a merch person is giving them your stuff. They sell it for you, and then you pick it up at the end of the night. Right. Essentially have a day off, but you still have to deal with money at the end of the night, so you can't have too much fun. But that tour, Trinity of Terror, 80% of my job, or 80% of the days on that tour, I didn't have to do shit. And I hated it. I hated it so much. I am a merch person because I like to be behind the table, selling, talking to people. Also, that's how I make tips. So when the venue is selling, I'm not getting shit except for my weekly rate. So there's two types of days. But the venue, I mean, when you do a venue sale day, you are giving them your numbers and your prices. I haven't run into a day where the venue sets their own prices for your stuff. I feel like that'd be kind of fucked up. But yeah, so those are the two kind of days you run into. Everything is decided by management though. It's just a simple email.
And how, when you're kind of keeping count on stock during a tour, is there kind of a point during the tour where it's not beneficial to restock? Like if there's like 2 days left and something's kind of flying out, is there any point in restocking at all? Or?
Oh man. Yeah, I just dealt with this. So ideally you would like to get like your last restock like a week before the end of tour. So that way you're selling through and like hopefully by the time you get to the last show or two, you have enough. Like maybe you're out of smalls or maybe you're out of 2X hoodies, whatever it is. This last tour, that restock never came.
Oh God.
And so I show up to the last 2 days in Colorado with close to nothing left. And it was atrocious, the amount of conversations I had to have with these fans. Like, sorry, I only have 3X. And I felt so bad because merch sales were so low because like we had nothing. But it was kind of cool to say that like I completely sold out of merch that tour because I didn't get that last restock. And I mean, it's no one's fault. I mean, it was just a matter of miscommunication through the emails. And like also management deciding, hey, we don't want you to come back with too much of this stock because we don't want to, like, this merch was tour exclusive.
Yeah.
So they didn't want me to bring home anything. So they're kind of happy that happened. And I'm kind of happy that happened just for the sake of like, there's not much to count out at the end of the tour and there's not much to deal with on the back end of the tour. But those last 2 days in Colorado, I literally only had like 3Xs left. And I felt so bad. Like as like a fan showing up to a show and wanting to buy merch and me only having 3Xs, I would have been so disappointed. And I know all these people were so disappointed. So it happens. But then like the other end of things, my All That Remains tour I did last year, they sent me 4 more boxes on the last day.
Right. Okay. So that's
what the fuck? And I didn't like, it was in freaking Connecticut. And I show up with like a decent amount. And I walk in and there's just 4 boxes waiting for me. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, I know we'll sell a decent amount of this, but like we would have been fine without it. It's okay if we're out of smalls. Like it will be fine. People will buy a medium.
Yeah.
Drink it. But yeah, so it's every tour is different. Every management is different. And like with that All That Remains tour, they did end up selling the rest of it online afterwards. Whereas Atreyu wanted me to come home with nothing. So it's different, but I much prefer to have stuff to sell.
Yeah, definitely.
My job. But yeah, you run into some funny situations with stuff like that. And a lot of times it's out of your hands and you just have to go with the flow and just talk to people and get them to understand that like, hey, I'm sorry, I tried. Yeah, it happens.
But yeah, still an achievement. Like you can say at the end of that Atreyu tour, you've pretty much sold out of stock. So there's no like excess stock for them to have to get rid of online later on or take to a second tour or whatever it may be. Yeah,
management's happy. Management's happy that I completely sold out. Sorry, Colorado, when I come back, I'll do better. But yeah, management's happy. So that's essentially part of my job too, is making sure management's happy. So we did good. We did good. It's an accomplishment for sure. I could put that on my resume.
And what about like merch placement? When you are setting up the store, is there kind of like a science or a logic behind like where you're placing things? Do you kind of put like the things that are selling well front and center? How does that kind of work?
So when you're dealing with only grids against a wall and then a table, you would hope that you have enough grid space to hang all of the cloth items, the hoodies, the shirts, the long sleeves, whatever, depending on what the spread is. So for example, this past tour, we had a hoodie. It was a zip up hoodie that was a front and a back. We had a tour shirt that was a front and a back with the dates on the back. And then we had 2 other items that didn't have a back. So the way I would set that up, obviously the tour shirt, always the best seller, always. So we had a long sleeve and a short sleeve that didn't have a back. So the way I would set it up, the 2 items that did have a back, I like symmetry. I like to have symmetry in my setup. So I would put the front and back tour shirt and front and back hoodie on the ends. And then the 2 shirts that didn't have a back, I would put those in the middle. And then we had like a hat and a vinyl. I would clip those under the non-back shirts. So I like to have symmetry. I also like to kind of keep my table clean and not too cluttered. So if I can hang something up, I will, but like certain vinyls I'll lay on the table, and like so that way you can open up the vinyl and show what the color of the vinyl is.
Yeah.
Things like we had a lighter on this tour, tape that bitch down because people will pick it up. Oh, that's cool. It's a lighter, and then it's gone. No, put it back down. So yeah, certain items, make sure you're securing them down to the table. But I think every merch person kind of has their own preference on how they want things to look. I personally think the most important thing is that tour shirt. People want to see, they will ask if a shirt has a back, and you have to hold your tongue by it not saying if it had a back, it would be displayed. But there's so many questions that you get that you're like, are you fucking kidding me? But no, I personally think the tour shirt is most important. I think everybody has their own eye for things. I just like to have symmetry. So if there's a hoodie, probably going on the end along with the other front and back thing on the other end. But I've seen people do it differently where they will put the front and the back of the hoodie side by side and then put other things under it. But that's just mine. That's just my personal preference, is to kind of have like a staggered, cute little aesthetically pleasing design.
Yeah. It's got to look nice.
It's got to look nice. It's got to look nice. You got to have all the information, because people ask questions, even if the information is there. You've got to have the price tags. You've got to have what sizes you have available, whatever special information you need. Yeah, it's all got to be displayed. It's all got to be for people to see, because most people are looking from the back of a line. You got to think of like, you want people to come up to the table knowing what they want to buy without asking too many questions, because the turnover, you got to keep going.
Yeah.
You want people to be able to see from the back of your line. So that's how I prefer to do it. But I think if you were to ask another merch person, they might have a completely different answer.
Yeah. But you mentioned there, like, people asking irritating questions, kind of obvious questions.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine there's a few things that irritate you. And the one thing I can think of is, you mentioned having like the vinyl on the front on the table, and then someone comes and puts a drink down, spills their drink.
Yes.
Ruins the vinyl, and then you're kind of like, you've got damaged stock now. What are you going to do with it?
Yeah, you can put a sign down that says no drinks on table, please. And people will act like they don't see it. Because I get it. It's a table. I understand you have things in your hands. You want to put something down, but please do not put a drink down on the merch table. Put your drink down somewhere else on another table. Like, just don't do it. And like I said, you put signs up, people don't care. And I've had a spillage happen, I think only twice so far. Once, it was in Dallas, freaking Dallas. Texas hates me. Dallas, somebody spilled. Nothing got damaged except for I had to throw my tablecloth away because I didn't have access to laundry that day. So thank God I had 3 tablecloths, but somebody spilled, and it was someone trying to flirt with me. God damn it. I was like, you suck. I don't know what, he was just hammered, and he was like, put his drink down and was like trying to lean over to try to like talk in my ear, and I'm like, and drink spilled. And I'm just, no, don't do that. Do not do that. Hold your drink. I don't care how many things you have in your hand. That is like one of my biggest pet peeves, is somebody putting their drink down. Like, I will be in the middle of this wonderful conversation with this person. They're telling me what they want to buy, and I will like be looking them in their eyes, and I can see in my peripherals that they've put their drink down on my table. And my entire mood towards them in the back of my head is like, pick that shit up, pick that shit up, pick that shit up right now. It is one of the most annoying things, but it makes things interesting, I guess, because you have to be like, hey, in the back of your head, you're like, this motherfucker. But out loud,
did you read the sign? Can you read the sign?
Like, hey, can you please pick your drink up? Like, I will have people not even buying merch, just standing, because whatever venue I'm in, my merch table is in like a good view of the stage, and I will have people just stand by the table just so they can put their drink on the table, and I'll have to like politely tap them on the shoulder. I'll give them like 3 minutes, but I'll have to like politely tap them on the shoulder, be like, hey, can you please pick your, like, I don't mind if you stand here, but can you please pick your drink up? Just, there's stuff here.
Yeah.
Like, oh. Most people are very like respectful once they understand, but like, don't do that. Don't do it. Yeah, you get some very annoying questions, and it is a lot of, like, I had a friend on this last tour that was on his own tour, and he was a merch person, and we would FaceTime each other while we're both selling merch. And like, there'd be times where I'm not talking to a customer, but he is, and I can hear his conversation on FaceTime. And like, someone would ask him like, is there anything on the back of that shirt? And he would like give me the side eye into the FaceTime. Like, no, there's nothing on the back of the shirt. And like, there's so many questions that you just have to kind of like, it's okay. Just give me. Light.
I love my job. I love my job.
I love my job. I love these people. I love what I'm doing. No, there's nothing on the back of that shirt. Yeah, it's all in good fun though. At the end of the day, like you deal with some annoying situations, but when you're done packing up at the end of the night and you're like laying in your bunk, you just think like, yes, some of that was really frustrating, but look at where I am right now. I'm in the middle of Oklahoma City, and I am so happy to be here. So you gotta kind of put every job comes with its frustrations, like tour manager, whatever, every job ever comes with frustrations. But with what we are doing, touring with bands that like I freaking grew up listening to, at the end of the day, you have to put all of those small annoying situations aside and just remind yourself like, holy shit, like this is cool as fuck. Like I am on a tour bus with 11 of my best friends who I'm not going to see for a couple weeks after this. And we are getting paid to travel and experience what we're experiencing. And like that person asking me if there's a back design on that shirt that clearly doesn't have a back design, it's not the end of the world because look at where I am and I am so happy. So I have those moments like almost like once a day at the end of every show where I'm just like, wow, this is insane.
Yeah, like think of the bigger picture, basically.
Exactly. Think of the bigger picture because one day I'm not going to be doing this and I'm going to look back and wish that I had been more grateful. And so I try to have that mentality like every day of like, be thankful for where you are, take pride in like what you're doing and just like live in the moment of where you are. Because as soon as you get home from a tour, you don't have those moments anymore. Like I literally got home. I got home like 3 weeks ago, and the first 2 days you're so happy to be home. You're like, oh my God, my cat, my bed, my dad, my mom, my sister, my bar, like whatever. But then like after 2 days, you're like, all right, I can go back out again. Like I'm ready to go. Like, let's go. When's the next tour? So yeah, it's a lot of like just stepping back and just being so like out of body, like, holy shit, this is insane.
Yeah. Well, for people listening who, heard all your stories, kind of your experience here, and they are interested in kind of taking a similar route to you, kind of going into the touring lifestyle and working, in merch or whatever it may be, what kind of skills would you say to an aspiring merch manager would be beneficial? And what advice would you kind of give to kind of take those first steps?
The advice I would give somebody who wants to start in this career, and then it's different from being in it, but to start in the music industry on the crew side of things, if you're not going down the crew world that requires skills like the lighting side and the photography, whatever, if you just want to be like a crew member or be involved in the industry, my advice is to just say yes to any small opportunity you get. So there might be like a local show and it's like a small, like 400 cap room or whatever, go to it. You never know who you're going to run into. You never know like who's going to need to be driven to the hospital. You never know what position you might be put in, even as just a fan. Like buy the VIP experience. First of all, help the bands out, buy merch, buy VIP. We say thank you. Go to the VIP experience, meet these bands, especially the smaller ones that like you might see the crew walking around that day in the venue. Just get there early and just kind of be very open-minded to anybody you meet, because like I've explained, my career happened mostly because of people I met and because I put myself in situations to meet these people on accident. So my advice is just be everywhere you can and be very open-minded to who you meet. You never know if like the security guard at the venue you're going to see a show at might also be the lighting guy for Asking Alexandria or something.
Yeah.
Like I freaking, the Canal Club that I went to, like the security guard from 5 years ago when I met Ricky is still the security guard there. Like, and who knows like how many connections that guy has. And he's also a dope dude. So my advice is just, you want to build that network. And even if you're like just starting, build that network with everybody and be nice to everybody, be kind to everybody, because you don't know who somebody is. And I don't want that to sound like, oh, be friends with somebody because they have connections that you don't know about. No, it's just, you want to be somebody that somebody looks back on and is like, damn, like she was pretty cool. Like I could see myself touring with her. Like you want to be that to everybody. So it's hard to kind of purposefully put yourself in position because not every venue is hiring. Not every band is hiring. And especially as somebody with like, if you're starting out with no experience, it is hard to find those situations where somebody does need somebody with no experience, or they're willing to take somebody out on tour that has no experience. It is very hard to find that. And it's like I said, like I fell into this so accidentally that I don't even know, like I can't even trace back the exact moment of like how this all started for me. But like, was it because I was friends with that kid Troy in college? Like I didn't know that Troy's older brother was going to be responsible for me meeting Ricky from Ice Nine, who it's just this long train of people. But yeah, I guess my only advice, because I freaking don't know how I'm here, but my advice would just be nice to anybody. Just be nice, just be kind, because you don't know where that's going to take you. And then when you're in the industry, you have to be very adaptable. You have to be very adaptable to the people. Like you're living in a freaking van, bus, bandwagon, whatever, with anywhere from 4 to 11 other people that you may or may not get along with, but for the sake of your job, you have to get along with them. You're living with people. So I go into every tour, especially if it's a tour with a new band and a new crew that I've never met, just being like, hey, whoever that person is, adapt to how they live on the bus, adapt to how they work. Like some people will go get lunch with you every day, and other people you tour with, you'll hardly see. So it's like you kind of have to mend and like maneuver your personality around the personalities around you.
Yeah.
That's kind of my advice, is just be adaptable to, like, don't bother Jason because he doesn't want to go get lunch with you. He wants to go to the gym, but Corbin will go to lunch with you every single day. So it's a matter of just making sure you're developing these friendships differently with everybody based off of who they are, I guess. Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
I tried. Words are hard.
And in terms of you, Heather, with the next few years, what's kind of your goal? What's your bucket list? What are you hoping to achieve in the next few years?
I want to tour more, because as of now, between like with all that remains has been writing their new album for a long time. So they've been kind of not touring for the past year. Atreyu's been touring a lot, but I'm averaging probably like 5 months out of the year on the road, and I would like to up that to like 7. But I'm very happy with where I am. I love my Atreyu boys. I love my All That Remains boys. If I do end up getting the tour that I said I was in talks with, I would absolutely love that. I don't really have, like, a lot of people ask me like, what's your dream band that you want to work for? And I don't really have one. Like I think about like the bigger bands, like, okay, let's say if like Slipknot or something were to offer me, absolutely, I would say yes. But I love the size tours that I'm doing, like the anywhere from like 500 to 4,000. That's a big range. So like this Atreyu tour that we just did, we were doing venues that were like 1,200 cap. But with Trinity, we were doing small arenas. And I found myself preferring the 1,000 cap rooms over the small arenas, just because, well, most of the 1,000 cap rooms I'm selling versus small arenas, it's venue sale days. So I like the size of the tours that I'm doing. I look at Ice Nine Kills now, and like they're opening up for Metallica in Europe. And I'm just like so proud of them, because 3-4 years ago when I started with them, we were doing 1,000 cap rooms. And it's like, I look at those tours and I'm like, I am so happy for them. And I'm so proud of them, but I'm glad that I am still doing 1,000 cap size rooms. So the next couple years for me, I think are going to be the same. I'm going to stay with my Atreyu boys as long as they'll have me. I'll stay with my All That Remains boys as long as they'll have me. And who knows what other bands are going to come along needing a 26-year-old merch girl. I don't know, but I actually want to move to Nashville. I mean, it's kind of industry related, but not really. I live in Virginia right now, and I've been here my whole life. And I think I'm going to be moving with my lighting guy, Corbin. He's out with Asking Alexandria right now. Me and him are in talks of rooming together in Nashville. And I think that's going to help a lot, because it's going to help a lot with off-tour gigs. Because have you heard of BobNet?
No.
BobNet, I don't know if it's just an American thing. BobNet is this kind of subscription service where it's a post forum for tour jobs.
Okay.
So if like a tour manager is looking for a lighting guy, they can post on BobNet like, hey, metalcore tour from April to June is looking for lighting guy, and like you can submit your resume or whatever. I am signed up for BobNet, and I get emails there's like 5 emails a day of like LD, looking for an LD, looking for a merch person. And a lot of them are looking for a merch person for weekends in Nashville. Nashville. So I'm hoping that moving to Nashville will help me with, maybe I'll bartend there too, whatever, but helping with just like one-off gigs every now and then. But yeah, I have no plans for the next few years. Atreyu is touring again, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I'm not going to say the dates because I don't think it's announced yet. But when Atreyu tours again, I think I'll be with them. And yeah, that's all I got right now. I'm just still building out this loft that I just moved into, that I'm about to move out of, and living with my cat and just chilling at home and waiting for the next tour to come along. Just passing the time. Tour, and then cat.
Cat.
Yeah.
Good balance.
Yeah, I'm very open-minded to whatever comes along. I'm not like pushing for anything. I don't have anything that I don't really have anything really. I'm just kind of going with the flow, and whatever happens, happens. And I'm going to be happy no matter what.
That's a good philosophy to live by, I think.
That's kind of all you can do in this industry. It's just for those people who have like multiple bands that they work with that are like touring like 10 months out of the year. I envy them for the security purposes of it, because they know when their next tour is. And I do too, like with Atreyu, I know when my next tour is, but I would love to fill the time with more tours. But for now, all I can do is keep reaching out to tour managers that I know might need somebody and try to build a life at home that I can be as content with as I am when I'm on tour. That's it.
Seems fair enough to me. Thanks very much for your time, Heather. I really appreciate you taking all this time out to share your stories and your experience and your knowledge. Before I let you go and enjoy the rest of your day lounging around with your cat and your birthday this weekend as well.
Yes.
Any final words, anything you want to say, anything you want to plug? The floor's yours.
If Atreyu comes near you, come see me and say hi and buy me a strawberry lemonade Truly, because those are my favorites. Other than that, no, I don't have anything other than thanks for having me. And this has been wonderful. I'm glad you found me somehow, and you were lovely. So thank you for making my Wednesday morning, afternoon a pleasant one. And hopefully we chat again soon. Hopefully I come see you on a Europe tour.
Yeah, I'd like that. Or if I ever come over to the US and you're on a tour, I'll come over and say hey at the merch table.
Absolutely. I would love that.
And I won't put a drink on the table. I promise. I'll keep it off the table.
And I promise if there is a back of a shirt, it will be displayed.
Thanks again. I'll let you go.
Yeah, thank you so much. I hope you feel better.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. See you later.
Bye.
Bye. And that is it. Thank you so much for listening. Again, if you enjoyed this or any other episode of the podcast, then please leave a rating and review wherever you're listening to this. If you want to support the podcast further, you can go and give it a follow on social media, pick up something from the merch store, or subscribe to the Patreon to get early access to episodes. All the links can be found at itsnotaphase.co.uk. That's itsnotaphase.co.uk. Thanks again, hopefully catch you on the next one, and remember, it's not a phase, it's a lifestyle.